श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Hari Om. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all for the session 28 of Gift, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation. Last class, we have studied the verses from 6.23 to 6.27. Today, let us study the verses from 6.28 onwards. Today's speakers are Dr. Anupama, Srimati Shamala, Srimati Vidya Prabhu, Dr. Satyanarayana, and Dr. Sundar. Today's moderation and presentation by Srimati Panaga. Over to you, Panaga.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We are now in the 6th chapter, the Dhyana Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita. Beginning from the 2nd chapter until the 5th, Lord Krishna has given Arjuna and us the entire essence of the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 2, Lord gives us the Gita summary and the all-important liberating self-knowledge or Atmagnanam. Chapter 3 then was about Karma Yoga, and 4 and 5 chapters were about Gnana Yoga, that is claiming our higher nature. Sri Krishna could have concluded the Gita here, but being the greatest Acharya, he gives us a practical guide on how to assimilate all this profound knowledge. Because only when the knowledge is assimilated can we enjoy the phalam of Jivan Mukti. Otherwise, this life-transforming knowledge remains information, perhaps fascinating information at best. Next slide, sir. For a moment, let us take stock of our progress as spiritual seekers. We have been regularly attending these classes and listening to Swami Paramarthananda's audios. So, through this Vedanta Shravanam, we have gained Atmagnana or self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is in fact quite unbelievable at first. That there are two eyes within me, the limited, lower, enjoying, suffering, transacting I, which I have always assumed to be my true nature. And then the higher, infinite, all-pervading, non-transacting I, of whom I knew nothing about. Hence, along with Shravanam, I am doing Mananam, revisiting the knowledge in my mind, and I use my intellect to make it Dridha Gnanam or doubt-free knowledge. Next slide, sir. So I have done Shravanam and Mananam and gained the supreme knowledge. But the promised Gnana Phalam of Jivan Mukti seems to elude me. What is Jivan Mukti? It is having an equanimous mind and uninterrupted fulfillment or contentment, happiness, and freedom from anxiety, grief, anger, jealousy, etc. The reason for this block is that we have not allowed the Vedantic knowledge to percolate deep into our subconscious mind, to change the very fabric of our habitual thoughts and pervade our very being. Therefore, Krishna dedicates an entire chapter, this one, Dhyana Yoga, to the process of assimilation of Vedantic knowledge, and this process is called Nididhyasanam or Vedantic meditation. In the next slide, let us revisit the teachings of Vedanta and allow it to percolate into our very being. I am not this growing, graying, going body with name and form. nor am I the mind which changes every moment. I am that witness consciousness which has remained unchanged through all these changes. I am the formless, attributeless, pure, eternal, infinite Satchidananda Atma, which enlivens my inert body and mind. And I pervade the entire universe as Brahman, lending existence and sentience to it, just as I lend existence and sentience to my dream world. Profoundly, I, the Atma, am the only source of permanent peace, security, and happiness in this world. Continuing in the next slide. Anything that happens to the Anatma, my body, mind, family, possessions, or profession, does not affect me, as all of these are changing and transient by their very nature, while I am anchored to the permanent, unchanging Atma. I know that every situation shall pass. My body and mind are no longer the source of my sorrow, but are wonderful instruments to enjoy Lord's creation and contribute in the best way I can. When I remember this truth, my life becomes a blessing. Just as the other stars fade in daylight, my problems pale in the light of my new understanding about myself and the world. While if I forget, I descend to samsara and my life becomes a burden. Next slide, sir. Nididhyasanam or Vedantic meditation is thus saturating my mind with this Vedantic teaching. Slowly and slowly, shanaihi, it removes my old habitual thinking of identifying myself as a limited, struggling jiva through life's many problems. In due course, through Nididhyasanam, which can vary from a few months to a few years, I, the committed Nididhyasaka, experience a gradual, steady shift in my perspective and response to the world, attaining peace of mind. When the shift is complete, I become a Jivan Mukta or a Gnana Nishtha. Such an evolved Nididhyasaka is called a yogi in this chapter. The next slide, we concluded the previous class with a description of such a accomplished yogi in verse 27. What is the state of mind of such a yogi? Lord Krishna describes him to have a prashanta manasam, one whose mind is at peace. It is not thoughtless, but his thoughts sit lightly on his mind. They do not disturb him. And how has it reached this state? By Shanta Rajasam, carefully dealing with and quietening unhealthy Rajasic thoughts like Kama, Krodha, etc. His mind is akalmasham, without tamasic delusionary thoughts. Therefore, he naturally gains Uttamam Sukham or supreme Ananda and he becomes Brahma Bhutam, merges with Brahman. What does merging mean? He disowns his lower mind body complex and owns up to his higher nature as the Sakshi Chaitanya. Thus, Vedantic meditation is a process of the transformation of the human mind. And as Swami Chinmayananda puts it beautifully, he says, a mind at rest is the temple of joy. With this background, let us begin today's class where we are going to see some of the greatest verses in the entire Bhagavad Gita. These are the Sthita Prajna verses of this chapter and inspire us to strive for the highest ideals of our human birth. I request Dr. Anupama ma'am to explain the opening verse of today, verse 28. Over to you, Anupama ma'am.
Thank you, Panaga. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, verse 28. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. This mantra describes jnana phalam. As Pannaka just said, we know that Vedantic meditation or Nididhyasanam is re-looking in the light of Vedantic teaching. And this Nididhyasanam removes obstacles to Jnanam. What are these obstacles? Our habitual ways of thinking called vasanas. Jnanam then automatically produces Shanti, Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. So let's revisit what is meant by Nididhyasanam. It is all thoughts centered on the binary format. This means we have to shed Jiva Bhava just like a snake sheds its skin. When Jiva Bhava is replaced by Brahma Bhava, we realize that Mukti is not a sadhyam but a siddham. Redirecting this mind is called Atmanam Yunjan, switching over our thought pattern from vasana based to will based thoughts or about our Atma, or moving from the triangular to the binary format. Quoting Drik Drishya Viveka Mantra 20, Asti Bhati Priyam Rupam Nama Chedyamsha Panchakam Adhyatrayam Brahma Rupam Jagat Rupam Tatodvayam. Vedantic meditation is being aware of the invariable Sat Chit in and through the variable Nama Rupa. Atma Anatma Aviveka or Brahman Prapancha Aviveka is the cause of samsara. In all our experiences, 5 factors are involved. Asti, meaning the isness, the sat or existence. Bhati, the knowledge of this existence, which we call chit. And priya, which is the ananda sambandha. The 4th and 5th being, of course, nama rupa, the variable component. Asti bhati priyam is Brahma Rupam, it is uniform. Nama Rupa is the attractive Mithya Maya. We should enjoy Maya only by holding on to Brahman. Continuing Drik Drishya Viveka Mantra 30, Dehabhimani Ghalite Vijnate Brahmatmani Yatra Yatra Manoyati Tatra Tatra Samadhaya. This means allow the thoughts to flow naturally. After all, we know the mind is chanchalam, it is asthiram. But whatever be the object of my thought, I have to turn my attention to the sat in that object. That is a shift to adhishtanam dhyanam. Atma Nishta presupposes anatma abhimana or tyaga. Anatma abhimana tyaga. As I claim Paramatma more and more, we see Deha Abhimana Galitam happens. That means the claim that I am the body just slips away. This is called Deha Abhimana Tyaga. And this is a state of Sahaja Samadhi. We can call it Atmanishta, Jnananishta, Sthita Prajna, Brahmi Sthiti. Yatra Yatra Mano Yati. Wherever the mind goes, whatever be one's experience, he is in Samadhi. This is called Samadhayaha. He is aware of I, the Brahman, the Sat Chit Anand, the Asti Bhati Priyam, the Adhishtanam in every Nama Rupa. Who is this Adhishtanam? I am the Adhishtanam, the Sat, in which every Nama Rupa is located. This is gradually moving from Nama Rupa to Satta and finally to Atma. How is this possible? 3 steps have been given. Yatatmya Nirupam. Acknowledge that every object is a mixture of Atma and Anatma. Anatma, in the form of Nama Rupa, depends on Atma, the Sat, for its existence. Second, Abhasi Karanam or Mithya Karanam of Nama Rupa, realizing that it's a lower order of reality. And thirdly, Vairagya Bhavanam, which is a natural consequence of Mithya Karanam. We understand Mithya does no longer deserve Raga Dvesha. What is the result? Sukham. And who attains the Sukham? A yogi, a Vedantic meditator in whom Jnanam brings about a transformation. Evam Atmanam Sada Yunjan. Here Atma means mind and Yunjan means regulating, reorienting, or transforming the thought process. What is the result of this transformation? Vigata Kalmasha. This yogi is free from Viparita Bhavana called Viparyaya or all papams. And the result of this Vigata Kalmasha is Atyantam Sukham or Jivan Mukti. So how can we be sure? Krishna has emphatically said, Sukhena Ashnute. What is the source of this Sukham? Brahma Samsparsham. Sukham arising from association or owning up that I am Brahman. This is Brahmananda or Atyantam Sukham, different from Koshananda. Koshananda being Agamapayi, while Brahmananda is Unagamapayi. Koshananda is experiential, Brahmananda is non-experiential. Koshananda is Mithya Vyavaharika, Brahmananda is Satya Paramartika. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama ma'am, for clearly and eloquently explaining our Satchit Ananda nature and how it leads to a yogi Sukham. Lord Krishna is not describing any blissful experience occurring during meditation when he says Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. Rather, he is revealing the nature of you, the experiencer, the Satchidananda Atma, the only source of happiness in this world. Now, let us for 1 minute dwell on how I, the Atma, am the only source of happiness in this world. Suppose you love gulab jamun. You go to a hotel and find it in the menu. Now you become happy. Then you order it. Now you are happier because you're going to get it. Finally, it comes to your table. Then with a spoon, you take a bite. This moment when the gulab jamun is melting in your mouth is the state of Ananda, your happiest self. The question we have to ask ourselves is, was happiness an ingredient of the gulab jamun? If it was, everyone who ate it would feel the same happiness. So it is clearly not an ingredient of the gulab jamun. During that magical moment of savoring it, our mind and intellect stop their incessant chatter, allowing the Ananda from my inner Anandamaya kosha to come to the surface. And where did this koshananda come from? It came from our always existent source, the Sat Chit Ananda Atma, which is me. Hence, it is called Brahmananda. This material object induced happiness is koshananda. It comes and goes. It is Vyavaharika, pointed out by Anupama ma'am. But the yogi, through the claiming of his higher nature, is always in contact with the eternal source, Brahma Samsparsham. Therefore, happiness is not a part and parcel of any of your favorite things. Getting your favorite thing simply quietens the mind, thereby allowing your inherent Atmananda to shine through. The same quietening of the mind is achieved through Nididhyasanam, and such a yogi can always access this Atyantam Sukham at will. With this, we move on to the next beautiful verse. Over to you, Shamla ma'am.
Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Lord Krishna is talking about the benefits of practicing the Vedantic meditation from verse 27 to 32, Dhyana Phalam. And the benefit that Krishna mentioned was that knowledge received at the time of Shravanam or learning from the teacher, the knowledge gets assimilated to such a level that it transforms my core personality, leads to a healthy attitudinal change, is the result of Vedantic meditation. And because of this transformation, the world which could disturb before loses its capacity to unsettle me. So, through Shravanam and Mananam, one gets Jnanam. Through Nididhyasanam, one converts Jnanam into Jnana Nishtha. And Krishna said, as a result of this, there is Samadarshanam, which is explained in the 29th verse. Next slide, please. The verse goes like this. Sarvabhutasthamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Yoga yuktaha atma means this jnani whose mind is yuktaha. Yuktaha means disciplined or saturated with this knowledge. So, with whatever field of knowledge the mind is saturated with, the mind will naturally think of that. If we are a Vedantin only think Vedantically. And therefore, Yuktaha means saturated with the self-knowledge. Next slide, please. Because of what? Yogena. Because of the consistent practice of Nididhyasana. Therefore, yoga means Nididhyasana. Yukta means saturation. Atma means mind here. Yoga Yukta Atma means the one whose mind has reached Vedantic saturation through Vedantic meditation, and such a person Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. Sarvatra means in every human being. He sees the common feature Atma, the self, like the invisible thread in and through all the beads of a mala. There is the inherent Chaitanyam. Even when he interacts with the people, he does not lose sight of the Atma, the essential nature in everyone. Therefore, Sarvatra Samadarshanaha means Sarvatra Atma Darshanaha. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't see differences. Certainly, he sees the physical, the intellectual, and emotional differences. But in and through the differences, he does not lose sight of the oneness of Atma. So, Sarvatra Samadarshanaha Yoga Yuktatma. He is Jnana Nishta. Next slide, please. And what is his vision? Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam. He sees the Atma as residing in every living being, just as the space present in every room, every hall, every pot, every cup. Similarly, Atma is within everyone. This is Sarva Antaryamitava Darshanam. And he also sees Sarva Bhutani cha Atmani. The reverse vision. What is the reverse vision? Instead of saying space is within the hall, he begins to say not only halls, all the planets, all the stars, all the galaxies, they are in one space. Similarly, Atma is not in the body. All the bodies are in the Atma. Sarva Bhutani, all the bodies. Atmani, in the Atma, he says. In the beginning, it is said, I am in them. Now I say they are located in me. And Shankaracharya gives a profound meaning, Ekatam Gatani. It is a very important commentary. Ekatam Gatani means they are located in me. Means they are non-different from me. Means all the anatma does not exist separate from me. That means Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, Mai Sarvam Pratishthitam, Mai Sarvam Layam Yati, Tad Brahma Dvaya Masmyaham. Next slide, please. And he is aware of this fact. What is that? Atma is imperishable and Atma is perishable. When you want to enjoy variety, when you want to appreciate beauty, make use of anatma. And when the anatma or the perishable things of the world are disappearing, and when you are looking for something permanent, then you cannot rely on the body part. That is a mistake we commit. Gnani never commits that mistake. He knows when security, ananda, limitlessness are needed, hold on to Atma. And anything else other than that, you want, change the channel, Anatma. Only two channels, Anatma and Atma channel. So one should know how to shift the channel depending upon one's need. Therefore, Sarva Bhutastham Atmani Pashyati, Sarva Bhutanam Atmani cha Pashyati, Sarvatra Samadarshanaha Gnananishta. And how did he get this benefit? Only by one method, giving time for Vedanta. Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Shamla ma'am, for that clear and wonderful explanation of this great verse. Let us consider the clay and pot example. Suppose there is a shop full of pots in different sizes, shapes, colors, and maybe some cracked pots too. We recognize this obvious multiplicity and use each pot differently. But never for a moment forget that they are all made from clay. There is no conflict in seeing this unifying entity in and through their different shapes and forms. Similarly, a yogi whose mind is saturated with self-knowledge through Nididhyasanam has equality of vision. Sarvatra Samadarshinaha. There is no conflict in his understanding that the same Brahman pervades all unequal beings, from the creator Lord Brahmaji to the smallest blade of grass. The benefit of this Samadarshanam is complete elimination of raga and dvesha and empathy for all, because Sarvam Kaluidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. Let us move on to the next wonderful verse. Vidya ma'am, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The 29th verse spoke of the benefit of meditation, which is constant self-awareness. Here, in this 30th verse, the reference to the bhakti is brought in, which would be discussed in the 7th chapter for a while and in detail in the 12th chapter. In this verse, Lord Krishna says, constant self-awareness alone is God awareness, which means self is equal to God. Bhagavan is there in everybody as consciousness. Atma Darshanam, Eva Ishvara Darshanam. Divine love is self-love. Enjoying God is enjoying myself. Now coming to the verse, the earlier slide please. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam cha pashyati, tasyaham na pranashyami, sa cha na me pranashyati. Yaha, who, mam, I stand for Sthulas, I here stand for Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharira Vyatiriktaha Chaitanyam or the Para Prakriti. Sarvatra Sarva Shariram Pashyati sees. Tasyaha, for such a jnani devotee, Aham na pranashyami, searcher me na pranashyati. Lord Krishna says, I am never lost sight by him and he is never lost sight of by me. When I say I'm God, God will never go out of my sight, as self-awareness will never be lost sight of. If God is another object, God also will become anatma. So, Atma Rama is the benefit of Nididhyasanam. The seeing Atma in and through everywhere is the greatest bhakti. Sarvatra Atma Darshanam is Sarvatra Ishvara Darshanam, which is possible only through self-knowledge. Next slide, Doctor. Swami Paramarthananda, on a lighter note, brings in the reference of Akbar and Birbal, where Birbal tells Akbar that he is greater than the Lord as he can do something which even God cannot do. That is, a king can banish anyone from his kingdom, whereas God can never do this. This is indeed a great message how all inclusiveness is the real Brahman. Now coming to the Bhashyam, Shankaracharya says, Sarveshu Bhuteshu Sarvam Cha Pashyati. One who sees Lord in everyone and one who sees all beings in Lord Krishna is the greatest jnani for whom the Lord's glories become his own self-glories. This should be the culmination of a meditation. One should be able to claim without being teased by the world or by one's own subconscious mind. In short, binary format must dominate over the triangular format. Atma Ekatva Darshanaha. For such a Jnani Bhakta, Aham Ishvaraha na pranashyami. I, the Lord, is never lost sight of. He is a Bhakta as he admires the Lord. He is a Jnani as he admires himself. God admiration and self-admiration is the same. In Avadhuta Gita, most of the chapters are self-glorification. Shodasha Puja starts with Atma Puja, Atmane Namaha, Antaratmane Namaha, Paramatmane Namaha, indicating that the external puja must culminate with Atma Puja. Next slide, Doctor. The lines from Jivo Deva Sanatanaha, Tyadeja Jnana Nirmalyam Soham Bhavena Pujayat. Vedanta says greater than the 108 Divya Deshams is Dehu Devalaya Proktaha. That is, body itself is the temple and the Lord is the Jiva residing inside. Sanatanaha, because of the past karmas, we have got the oldest garland called Ajnana. Nirmalyam means discarding this old vasana of Ajnana. We have to start doing the puja of Bhagavan like Saha Aham Bhavena Pujayet. Thus, the long-term phalam of Nididhyasanam is Sarvatra Jivatma Paramatma Ekatva Darshanam. So Shankaracharya says, when Paramatma and Jivatma are non-different, Tasya cha mama cha eka atmakatvat. Tasya, as we have already seen, is the Jnani Bhakta, and mama means I, the Bhagavan, are having one and the same Atma. Not Amsha Amshi Bhavaha, not Karya Karana Bhavaha, but Abheda Bhavaha. The line from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Atmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. Reaffirms the same truth that Atma is dear to oneself and always remembered all the time. If Dvaita Bhakta says, Oh Lord, you are Ananda Swarupaha, a Jnani Bhakta says, you are Ananda Swarupaha and I am Ananda Swarupaha. I enjoy you and I enjoy myself. In Sat Darshanam, Raman Maharshi says, Yadishitur Vikshanamikshitaram Avikshya Tanmana Sikeshanam Syat Nadrashtu Ranyam Paramohitasya Vikshaswamule Pravilya Nishta, which means the real God is I, the observer. There is no God other than the self. The one who sees God without seeing oneself, he is hallucinating. Therefore, seeing God is abiding in the self, true Vedanta.
Thank you very much, Vidya ma'am, for an excellent explanation of this brilliant verse, bringing in aspects from the Shankara Bhashyam and the Avadhuta Gita also. Lord Krishna here is referring to himself not as his avatara, but as his highest self, the Nirguna Brahman. We saw in the previous verses that this yogi has Brahma Samsparsham and Sarvatra Samadarshinaha. That is, he identifies himself as Brahman and sees the same Brahman in everything and everyone. Hence, Lord Krishna says that through all this, he is seeing me only. This yogi, hence, is a Parabhakta. This is akin to the Vishwarupa Darshana, where the yogi has the Divya Drishti of seeing the same divinity in and through everything in this world. This verse is verily the greatest assurance that the Lord can give us, that once we have dropped our petty lower nature and identify ourselves as the Atma, the Lord is always in us and we are always in Him. I now request Dr. Satyanarayana to explain the next glorious Sthita Prajna verse. Over to you, Dr. Satyanarayana.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse 6.31 goes like this. Sarva bhuta astito myomam bhajate ekatvam sarvata vartamano api sayogi mai vartate. Going by the word meaning, Sarva bhuta astitam yomam, one who has attained the vision of oneness, bhajate ekatvam asthitaha, worships me who am present in all beings. Sarvata vartamano api sa yogi mai vartate, means that yogi abides in me though engaged in every way. Next slide. The whole verse means, next slide, the yogi who is established in union with me and worships me as the supreme soul residing in all beings dwells only in me though engaged in all kind of activities. From verse 18 to 32, Krishna is dealing about Dhyanapalam, the benefits of meditation. The benefit of transformation, the benefit is transformation of the personality, the way I look at the world, the way I look at the events in life, the way I look at myself. Everything is completely transformed. The world does not undergo any change, but my way of looking at it is changed. And the greatest benefit of this perspective change is Sarvatra Sama Darshana, freedom from Raga Dvesha. So neither I am attached to anything in the creation. Attachment is no more my weakness, nor do I hate anything intensely. Raga dvesha athitatvam or sama darshanam. Sarvatra sama darshanam. So a jnana nishtha might have preferences in life, but he is not a slave of any object, any situation, or any person. The toughest thing is getting out of attachment towards people. That is the final detachment. So this raga dvesha athitatvam or sarvatra sama darshanam is presented as the main benefit. Next slide. In this verse, Sri Krishna is talking about the perfected yogis who are in the third and fourth stage of their level of realization. In this level of highest bhakti, expression of bhakti also differs. Previously, I looked upon God as a person with all the limitations and weakness of human beings. At higher stages, the whole creation is the abode of the Lord. God is all pervading in the world. He is also seated in everyone's heart as the supreme soul. In the verse 18.61, Krishna states, I dwell in hearts of all living beings. Thus, everything within the body of each living being, there are two personalities, the soul and the supreme soul. Those in material consciousness see everyone as the body and make distinctions on the basis of caste, creed, age, social status, etc. But those in superior consciousness see everyone as the soul. Thus, in the verse 5.18 also, Sri Krishna states, the truly learned with eyes of divine knowledge see with equal a vision of a Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and even a dog eater. Next slide. The elevated yogis in even higher consciousness see God seated as the supreme soul in everyone. They also perceive the world, but they are unconcerned about it. They are like hamsas, the swans, who drink the milk and live off the water from a mixture of milk and water. The most elevated yogis only see God and have no perception of the world. All that they perceive is God, all that they hear is God, and all that they think is God. Sarvatra vartamano api. Whatever be the lifestyle, such a jnani chooses whatever be the ashrama that he is in. He might be in brahmacharya ashrama, or he might be in grihastha ashrama doing business, or might be in vanaprastha ashrama. What profession you have, what type of lifestyle you have, that does not matter. You can be where you are doing your duties. The transformation is within. External transformation is not compulsory. Internal transformation is important. Saha yogi, such a jnani, such a jnananishta, mai vartate, he is in me. He need not go to temples to see God because for him, God is not confined to a temple. So at these higher stages, the whole creation is the abode of the Lord. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satyanarayana, for giving us the gems of wisdom in this verse. All these verses are not just some of the greatest in the Gita, but also of the entire Advaita teaching. They extol the benefits of internalizing Gnanam to become a Gnananishtha. For a Gnananishtha, there is no conflict between seeing every living being as a manifestation of the Lord, yet recognizing the diversity in their attributes. He is comfortable with functional Dvaita, but never forgets the inherent Advaita, claiming it with reverence. Even when engaged in all activities, he never loses sight of the fundamental divinity in all beings. Therefore, he treats everyone with love and respect, even those who make life difficult for him. This makes him the highest and the best version of a human being and making the human life worth it. We move to the last verse of today and probably the most profound. I request Dr. Sundar to kindly enlighten us about the glory of the Supreme Yogi. Over to you, Dr. Sundar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Put up in this slide is the broad division of topics in this chapter as given by Pujya Swami Paramarthananda ji. We have reached the end of the teaching. not just of the 6th chapter, but the entire Pratama Shatakam by itself, since the remaining 2 topics come about by a question from Arjuna, as we shall see further in the next class, but are not really the primary or the central theme of the Bhagavad Gita. So this chapter started with Bahiranga Sadhanani, moved to Antaranga Sadhanani, then gave the methodology to abide in the self-knowledge that the seeker has already received through the first 5 chapters. So in the present set of the verses, which are dealing with Dhyana Phalam, 2 types of Phalam have been primarily discussed, as brought about beautifully by Swamiji. One is Samadhi Abhyasa Nididhyasanam, and second one is Brahma Abhyasa Nididhyasanam. So the Samadhi Abhyasa Nididhyasanam requires one to sit in one place, close his eye, and then recollect the teaching of Shravana Mananam. Whereas the Brahma Swarupa Abhyasa Nididhyasanam is a kind of open eye meditativeness brought about by Advaita Jnanam Samadarshanam, where a seeker is constantly having this absorption in Brahman. Whatever he might be doing, he is seeing only Brahman in various Namarupas. So therefore, this verse culminates the entire Pratama Shatakam, and Lord Krishna is giving a kind of a course completion certificate in the last quarter of this present verse by saying, Sa Yogi Paramo Mataha. So we have seen Jnanam being imparted in the previous chapters and a method given in this chapter to have Jnananistha. Lord Krishna is not happy with Jnananistha. There is a kind of a twist in this last one verse. He goes one notch higher, one step further. So the question is this enough? There is a charge against Advaitam that these seekers are selfish because they are always focused on self-liberation. They are not bothered about the society. Is that a reality? This verse is going to answer by saying that a true Advaitin may be attached to nothing, but he is connected to everything. Now, in this next slide, let us try to understand. There are 3 levels that the seekers take. So you are in karma, then you graduate to karma yoga, then you graduate to jnana yoga. When we move to the second step from the first, we drop karma and a way of life of artha kama. This is understandable. Now, when we move from the second to the third step, second step is karma yoga and is associated with dharma. The third step is jnana yoga associated with moksha. The question this verse is asking is, when you move from the second to the third step, do you drop the second step? Do you drop dharma? Is this jnani's life in conformity only with jnanam, or is it in conformity with dharma also? This question comes about because of a couple of reasons. One is moksha is nitya swarupam of the jnani. No force can obstruct it or rob that away from him. Second point is that dharma is a vyavaharika satyam. It is mithya. Therefore, a jnani need not give importance as much as advaitam to dharma. The third point here is, we saw in the previous verse, sarvato vartamanopi, whatever be the lifestyle, he'll still be in advaitam. So these few points create a doubt in the mind whether a jnani can lead a licentious lifestyle, whether he can drop dharma. Therefore, is he a risk to society? And in this particular verse, Lord Krishna is refuting this yathestachara. By rule, necessarily, jnani will be in conformity not only with his jnanam, but he will definitely 100% be in conformity with dharma also. This is what Lord Krishna is emphatically saying in this verse. How does Lord Krishna present the conformity with dharma? Let us see further in the next few slides. Let us first chant this verse. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna Sukham va yadi va dukkam sayogi paramo mataha. The next slide presents the simple running meaning. Arjuna is a sambodhana there. So yogi paramah matha. So Lord Krishna is going to give the conditions which make a jnani the best, paramaha. What is the condition? Simply put, the condition is yah pashyati. He has a particular form of a vision. We've already seen in the previous Samadhi and Brahmabhyasa Swarupa Nididhyasanam verses that the jnani already has the vision of Sarvatra Atma Darshanam. Beyond that, Lord Krishna in this words wants to point out, as I said earlier, one notch higher up, another vision which is there beyond Sarvatra Sama Atma Darshanam. What is that vision? So it is Atmaupamyena Sarvatra Sukham Yadiva Dukkam Pashyati. What is this Atmaupamyena? Let us now see in this next slide. Please bear with me. This slide looks busy, but it has the thoughts of three great men who have shaped all our lives. So Atmaupamyena in the Shankara Bhashyam, Adi Shankara splits it as Atma plus Aupamyam. So Atma here is not Sachidananda Swarupa Atma, but it is a reflexive pronoun referring to first person singular as each one of us. And Aupamyam is presented as an abstract noun of Upama. Upamiyate iti Upama, says Adi Shankaracharya. So Upama is to see oneself, that is Atma, which is mentioned there, Swayam, as a model or standard. And an abstract noun form is standardness or modelness. So therefore, Atmaupamyena Sarvatra Samam Pashyati. We should see oneness not as Sarvatra Sama Atma Darshanam of the previous verse, but here Lord Krishna is telling Atmaupamyena. That is, you see yourself as the standard or the model, and keeping yourself in your mind, look at everything around you, the vyavahara, in an objective manner. What does this mean? In all my vyavahara, I have to reduce subjectiveness. I have to reduce ahankara. I have to make my ahankara feeble. I have to reduce my selfishness. Atmaupamyena means I have to reduce partiality. I have to become impartial. I have to reduce double standards. So let us look at this further as we see the meaning of the words here. Sarvatra Adi Shankaracharya equates as Sarva Bhuteshu, that is all beings. Samam means Tulyam or equal. Now, when you say that there should be no double standards, one person food is another person's poison. So how do you reduce double standards? So the verse gives a simple method. Sukham va yadiva dukkham. That Adi Shankara says here as Yatha mama sukham ishtam tata sarva praninam sukham anukulam, which means what is joy for me is so for all. And Yadiva Dukkham Adi Shankaracharya translates as Yatcha Dukkham Mama Pratikulam Anishtam Yatha Tatha Sarva Praninam Dukkham Anishtam Pratikulam, which means what is sorrow for me is sorrow for everybody. So therefore, what the verse is telling is to avoid double standards. What brings happiness to you? You serve or take care of others in the same manner so that it produces happiness. More importantly, what brings you sorrow will bring sorrow for other people also. Therefore, do not act in any manner which brings sorrow to others. So Adi Shankaracharya adds here, Nakaschit pratikulam acharati. Because of this thought pattern of his mind, he becomes a ahimsaka. He will never harm others. He'll never bring sorrow to others. So Swami Paramatmananda ji says that this is an important corollary to be drawn here. So Swamiji says that there are two types of behavior. One is I expect other people to behave with me in a particular way. That is called as expected behavior. My behavior towards other, he terms as extended behavior. So these are the two types of behavior. And often, because of the double standards, because of the partiality, there is a huge gap between the expected behavior and the extended behavior. Swamiji and Lord Krishna Adishankara are saying here, bridge that gap. Let there be no difference between the expected behavior and the extended behavior. The simple way to do that is Atma Upamyena, that is the method of self comparison. In every transaction, for a moment, what this verse suggests is put yourself, put myself in the shoes of the other person, do a role reversal, and make sure that the other person gets the best in the transaction. That way, the double standards will go away. Now, this verse is following Atma Darshanam, Samyak Darshanam. But we should understand that this vision is certainly powered by Advaita Samyak Darshanam. The reason is this person is seeing Atma as himself, as is described in the previous verses, but he is seeing himself as Atma inside everybody. So his body is not just his body, all other bodies are his bodies as well. Therefore, he would not have a partiality, he would not have double standards, and he will make the gap between the expected and the extended behavior as small as possible and brings it to zero. So, in conclusion, Lord Krishna's opinion, matha or abhipretaha in this verse is that this yogi who is not just having sarvatra sama atma darshanam, but who atma upamyena, he is able to avoid partiality, avoid double standards, who is able to constantly do role reversal and bring in happiness and avoids any himsa or sorrow in others, is the best jnani or the yogi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sundar, for this brilliant explanation of this supreme verse. This is the pinnacle of Vedanta. Can we look at everyone as ourselves? This is so difficult because in our material life, we are always comparing and contrasting ourselves with others. But a yogi, who Swami Anubhavananda calls a super deluxe yogi, sees the world impartially because the world is made up of two parts. One is the Jada, which is made up of the same Panchamahabhutas, and one is the Chaitanya Tattva. And the Jada part is same for everyone. The Chaitanya part is also the same for everyone. So he sees the world with compassion, just as he would see himself. He does to others what he would do to himself. This is similar to the question asked to Bhagwan Ramana, as someone asked him, how do we treat others? And Bhagwan Ramana says, there is no other. Such a yogi is the highest human being, and this is Lord Krishna's mataha, his opinion. With this, we conclude today's class. Our spiritual journey is long and requires effort, having to let go of the emotional attachment towards the things and people we love the most. It requires deliberate changing of all our thoughts at every moment of our waking state. It is verses like these that tell us that the result is worth every ounce of our effort. In each of these verses, Lord Krishna is assuring us again and again that claiming our higher nature is possible. And be it in our happiest or saddest times, the Lord is within us and always available to us. Realizing this is the ultimate benefit of Nididhyasanam. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you, Panaga, and all speakers of the day for the wonderful session. Thank you all, friends, for your divine participation in this journey. On coming Friday, 31st May, let us tune in for Mandukya Upanishad, Session 2. Now, it's time to conclude the session with Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Thank you.